The Houston Rockets have been on an absolute tear recently, so I figured it's about time I do a video on two of their more interesting young players. The players in question today are Jalen Green and Thompson. Thompson, obviously a rookie for them. He was the 4th overall pick. You guys have heard me talk about the Thompson twins a ton. I love their game so much. Jalen Green, on the other hand, is someone that I've kind of publicly, I don't want to say I'm like a hater of him because I'm not a hater of like really any NBA player. I just haven't enjoyed watching Jalen Green very much, mostly because of a lot of the intangibles that maybe he lacks or some of the basketball IQ that I've felt he lacked. But look, man, I can't lie. Dude is straight hooping right now. And it's never been because of a lack of talent with Jalen Green. Like, it's always just been that IQ. I've talked about a lot on the channel that there's something with the newer generation of player coming in where we can talk about the psychology of all of it. In essence, it boils down to the fact that kids nowadays are growing up watching more so like highlights and not complete games, that, you know, maybe they're more athletic than ever, and they probably have been, and they might be more skilled than ever, but their IQ is so low because they're not watching games and they're not practicing nearly as much. They're just playing AAU all the time, that they don't learn the game. And that's where I think Jalen Green kind of fell into. He's basically the complete embodiment of that, right? But as of late, Jalen Green has started to figure it out, man. And we're finally starting to see the combination of that talent mixed with some of that like basketball IQ that's really beneficial. And so I want to take a look at these two guys and just see what's working for them. So the Houston Rockets have won 13 out of their last 15 games, which is good enough for the 11th seed. Still not even in the play-in. Isn't that crazy? And there's not a ton of time left in the season. Like, what do we got? Like 8-9 games left or something like that. So the odds of them passing the Warriors, it's kind of it's not looking great, but this is giving me memories of a Phoenix Suns team some years back now, where they came into the bubble when they were just like hot and they just started winning at the end of the season. This could be the thing that like they have a little momentum going in or something, that maybe at the start of next year they've just got it going now, right? And maybe they come out really hot next year and those young players are really starting to put it together. But anyway, what's really interesting about this whole stretch is that Alperen Şengün has been out for like most of it, and he's probably their best player. At least he has been throughout the year. Like, Jalen Green's probably putting on the best performance of the season now for the team, but it's been really interesting. So I want to dive into Jalen Green's numbers. So on the season, Jalen Green, solid season to say the least. 20 points a game. If you're scoring 20 points in the NBA, that's obviously pretty impressive, but what hasn't always been there is the efficiency. Like, not a great 3-point shooter. Like, the 2-point field goal percentage and the effective field goal percentage is kind of like, free throw percentage is solid. He's getting some rebounds. The assists are kind of coming, but the turnovers are always really high, so you're like, is he really that good of a playmaker? He doesn't play well off ball. But as of late, right, there's been a change in the narrative. So since the end of February, Jalen Green has kind of just been on a tear. Like, you see 30-point games spread all over here, some 40-point games as of late, and it's been the 3-point percentage and the decision-making that I think has been the biggest thing for him. Like, when I watched him play before, a lot of times it was just, okay, I'm just running, I'm putting my head down, and we're seeing kind of what happens. I feel like he's keeping his head up more, he's being more methodical with what he's looking for on the court, like he's making the right passes more often. It just seems like he's reading the game a little bit better, so maybe something started to click. So let's take a look at Jalen Green before the hot streak. This is what his shot chart looked like. You know, a lot of the top of the key threes and everything, we're fine with that, right? But as you can see, clearly not hitting it. Also was getting to the rim quite a bit. Wasn't doing very well down there, right? And he's taking like a decent amount of these shots. These are what I just call like I don't know shots, meaning you got into these spots and you're like, I don't know, I got to put a shot up now, and you started taking them, and he really liked going to this left side of the court, it looks like. But the fact that these are just so all over the place just kind of tells you that, like, hey, you know, maybe we weren't quite sure what we were doing in a lot of these situations. You'd rather see it more like very heavy here, and it is like it's a majority of the right places. It's heavy up here and heavy down here, but all these other little sprinkles going on, it's kind of like, what's going on? So now let's take a look at it from this stretch, right? And what's interesting is like the shot chart, like in terms of like areas that he's shooting from, aren't too different. Like, you're seeing less sporadic shots from here, but you're still seeing them. But he's really converting from this right side of the court, and most importantly, he's converting at the rim. And that's where I think I'm seeing him maybe be a little more like dissective with how he's attacking the rim. Like, it's not so much just like a dead sprint going at the rim. It's a lot more like, all right, I'm pacing, I got a guy on my hip, and now I'm going to explode and be really athletic because that's the skills that he has. right? And so I think that's a big like attributor as to why that's going well. And obviously he's hitting his three primarily from this spot, which is really interesting. Like he's still not really hitting from this side of the court. He likes this corner a little bit, but that's interesting that most of his makes are coming from going to the right side. That would lead me to believe that he's getting a lot of right-handed drives then, which seems to be true based off this. So kind of interesting, and that may still speak on the fact that he's maybe not the most like fundamentally sound basketball player because he is right-handed. He does most of his work right-handed. So I'm going to guess that maybe he just doesn't work as well going to his left. And that's probably, if I was a coach, like I'm putting that on the scouting report 100% that we're moving him to the left side of the court and trying to make him operate over there. I want to take a look at his lineup numbers now. And so most of Jaylen Green's like lineup and efficiency numbers are going to be pretty bad. But what's been really interesting, and we'll talk about this with Amen as well, is that this new starting lineup that they have where Sengun hasn't been playing and they've moved Amen Thompson in has been a really productive lineup for Houston. That lineup consists of Van Vliet at the 1, Jalen at the 2, Amen Thompson, who's traditionally like a 1 or a 2, is now playing the small forward for them. Dillon Brooks is at the 4. And then you got Jabari Smith manning the 5. And obviously, a lot of spacing out there. And ironically, Amen Thompson being the 3 in this lineup is like the only non-shooter out on the court. And he's kind of the one that's more like rim running and trying to get behind the defense and get alley-oops and kind of playing the dunker spot, which him and his brother are both excellent at. But it's been really interesting how good this lineup has been together. And that's probably because they've got quite a bit of ball handling and quite a bit of like passing and cutting ability in there. Dillon Brooks is a very smart floor spacer. You know, he always knows where to be on the court. Obviously, Amen Thompson is phenomenal with or without the basketball. He's elite in transition. It put him next to Jaylen Green, and that's an awesome combo. Obviously, Fred VanVleet's a great facilitator. Jabari Smith Jr. is a very smart player as well. So I'm not surprised that they're getting a decent like efficiency out of this lineup, especially because like there's just are some good defenders on the court, like Dillon Brooks, Jabari Smith. Amen Thompson could probably be an all-defensive player if you really broke it down. There is this little lineup where he plays with Cam Whitmore, too, that's been pretty positive for him. So I'm kind of curious about, like, the two-man combination, which one has been, like, the most productive for him. Like, playing with Jacques Landale is interesting. I figured it would be Cam Whitmore and Amen Thompson, that it would be the most productive ones, because those are his play style partners, right? The guys that can really get out and run and move. So I'm not surprised to kind of see them. Yeah, Jayshawn Tate is another one, right? Like it's the slower guys like Sengun, Green, and like Jabari Smith where you're not seeing as much productivity with them. So the last thing I kind of want to look at are like some general plus minus numbers for players, and because I think it's a really interesting comparison. So Jaylen Green, this was pre All-Star break, was a minus 1.1, and honestly his like on-off numbers have been like much more drastic than even that at points. Like it's been pretty low, so kind of interesting to look at. But if we move that to post All-Star break, what are we working with now? A positive 7. That's such a drastic difference. That's honestly insane. You would have to convince me that it's basically a new basketball player out there. And this is his overall averages right here. Like he's a plus 0.6 right now. There were points where he was like a minus like 4 or 5 on the court. It was honestly like, it was just sad to watch. And the off numbers for him were like a plus like 7 or 8 at points. So it was crazy the difference of him being on the court versus off the court for how extreme of a scorer that he is. But now like he's been so productive recently that he's not only positive, and the team is still like technically better with him off the court, but as of late we know that hasn't been true because we were just looking at that, right? Post All-Star break, he's been their best player by that standard. But it's so interesting, like that gap has shrunk so much, like even just from an overall perspective. That's how good he's been in this recent stretch. So shout out Jaylen Green, man, he's been awesome. All right, let's talk about Amen Thompson now. I love the Thompson twins. You guys have heard me talk about this a bunch. They do everything but shoot the basketball. I don't want to hear you guys complaining like, oh, he's a bad shooter or whatever. Don't Ben Simmons this guy. Like, you guys need to appreciate that he does literally everything else really, really well. He's an elite finisher. His IQ's off the charts. 11 out of 10 athlete. Like, he can pass. He can handle. His defense is phenomenal. Like it's just crazy everything that him and his brother do so well. Like I said, it's like Ben Simmons, but like not as big and strong, if you will. But again, they've got like some skills that might even be better. Like it's really incredible, especially since they came up through like, I don't even, what is that league called that they came from? I don't even remember, but it was essentially just a nonsense league where they were the only two good players in it. And it's incredible to see like how much IQ that they have for the game. So Amen Thompson on the season, 9 points a game, 6 rebounds, some assists here and there. The turnovers, not too bad to the assists, especially for a rookie. Like, we love that. The field goal percentage, 52% for a guard. Pretty awesome. And then we look at the 3-point percentage, 14%. Don't worry about it right now. Like, even if he never becomes an elite shooter, he's going to be so much better than anything else. But if he figures out how to shoot like 35, 36% from three only, you have an all-star player. Like, legitimately, you have an all-star player. That's how good this guy is already. And so in this recent stretch, Amen Thompson has gotten the start, and that's the lineup we talked about earlier where he got inserted into the starting lineup as the small forward. And on that stretch, he had 6 points here, but 20 points, 18, 25. Like, you're seeing him getting like up into the like high teens and early 20s, which, considering how many other like decent scorers you have on this team, pretty awesome. And the rebounding, oh my gosh, like 11, 10, right? He's everywhere on the court. He's getting assists, he's getting steals, he's getting blocks. Like, the turnovers, not too bad either. He's got 1 with 3 there, but really not that bad for a rookie. All right, so here was Amen Thompson's shot chart up until the point where he really became like a true starter. As you can see, pretty consistent. He's doing his damage around the rim. And what's kind of interesting is, he's more of the ball handler of the two twins, right? Like, he was the one that always played point guard. He's more than capable of playing point guard. But where the two twins have found like so much like value is just in their ability to like see space on the court. And what I mean by that is like, Amen a lot of times will go into the corner. People sag off him because he's not a three-point shooter, and he just slowly sinks down. As soon as he sees the back of someone's head, he's at the rim, he's catching an alley-oop, or somebody's driving, he's filling the right space on the court here. He's catching a ball, just going right up and jamming it, because again, he's 6'7" with 11 out of 10 athleticism. Like, it's honestly incredible, and he's just not taking any shots that aren't at the rim right now, and you know what? That's fine. For a rookie, just finding a way to contribute and to score in your first season, like a way that works, is just fine. Like, he's not shooting a bad percentage from there at all. So we absolutely love that for him. And just watching him score by being smarter than everyone else when he is more talented is so interesting to me, because normally it's these guys are relying on all their natural gifts and everything early, but the fact that he's relying on his brain so early just gives me all the confidence in the world that this guy's going to be incredible the more that he kind of gets used to the NBA game. And if you were curious, this is what it's looked like since he was starting. Same kind of shot chart, right? He's getting everything at the rim, but, as he gets more and more time on the court, he gets more comfortable, right? He can get more of a game flow because he's used to playing a ton of minutes, right? That's something we have to remember with NBA players, man. It's hard to get in a flow when you're not getting a ton of minutes. But, man, he's just attacking the rim and he is finishing. I just also want to note, too, some of his finishes are so crazy. The spin he can put on the ball and the hand that he goes up with sometimes. I'm like, I've never seen that before. Like, why is he going to this? And he's just got a unique way to, like, use the glass and, like, finish up over somebody. Absolutely nuts. But, yeah, no, crazy to see these numbers. All right, so what lineups are working well for Amen? Kind of that same thing, that starting lineup that we talked about, but also just when, like, they threw him into the starting 5 and took Jabari Smith out, and I'm not saying that's how they actually started, just if that's the first, like, rotational substitution that they make. That lineup's been really good for them, and in very small instances, him playing with Jacques Landale has been pretty good, which is kind of interesting. You notice a lot of the same positives out of him when he's playing with Fred VanVleet, another ball handler that can, find him on those cuts that he's trying to make. Makes a lot of sense that he's playing well there. Again, the Jacques Landale connection is really interesting. I don't have an explanation as to why that is. I'm very curious as to what that could be. But him playing with Jayshawn Tatum, Jaylen Green, guys that can go out and run with him, not surprising that those are kind of the guys he gravitates and plays better with. Then we'll do the same thing looking at some plus minuses pre All-Star break. Rookie Amen Thompson minus 1.9. In all fairness, a lot of the players have been pretty negative for this team because they just weren't winning many games, right? That's something to keep in mind. But him and Jalen Green both were kind of struggling in that stretch since they've been winning more games. Amen Thompson's been their like second most valuable player, if you will, in terms of plus minus. And overall on the season, he's been a positive for them. If he's on the court, good things are happening. I feel that way about Asar and Amen. I know I'm using like stats to confirm this, but just the eye test as well. I feel like both the offense just moves so much better when he's in the game because you have just such a cerebral player like him out there. But man, the defense is what's just absolutely insane. His ability to like read where everybody's going, get steals, get time blocks, like just be athletic and switch on to literally anybody on the court. It's incredible. That's where he's probably making the biggest impact. And I know I said it earlier in the video, but I truly think Thompson could, like, if you just looked at this back half of the season, he's an all-defensive player already. Him and Wemby. If you would have looked at the first half of the season, you probably would have said Asar, but then Asar went and got hurt and everything. But I think both Amen and Asar are going to be all-defensive players for a while. They're too smart. They're too athletic. It's too much fun to watch. I can't wait to see these guys grow. So I don't want to see any of you guys complaining about the jump shot. I don't care right now. And even if it never developed and they kept all the rest of these skills, they're still an awesome starter in the NBA for a long time. Yeah, man, shout out the Houston Rockets, man. Like, where do they go from here? That's kind of the question, right? Like, so again, we look at the standings, the likelihood of them making the playoffs or even the play-in, not looking very good. But, you know, they're also going to have an opportunity to draft another young player. So who are they going to take? I don't know. Like, maybe they go get another wing or something, or maybe they go get another big. They're going to have Steven Adams on the roster next year, which is going to be kind of cool to see, with him setting some mean screens for guys like Amen and Jaylen Green to try and attack the hoop, right? Like, I'm very curious about this team, the moves that they're going to make this offseason. There's been rumors that they're going to try to package a bunch of people to get some stars or something like that. I hope Amen's not a part of it. You could probably talk me into Jaylen Green because it's been a small sample size of him having success. But I don't know. I'm very curious, but there's a lot of momentum here right now. I'd be very curious to see if they kept this group together, what it looks like going into next season. But hey, you guys let me know what you think of this video and everything. Make sure you subscribe, like, do all those things. We're on our way to 1,000 subs, which is so cool. I really appreciate all the love the channel's been getting recently. We just had a record month and everything, so I seriously really appreciate it. But yeah, let me know what other players you want me to deep dive into. But until then, we'll see you guys later.